Hi, I'm Allie. Join me in this simple wire working technique to make these bubblegum earrings. Remember, if you have a little bit of wire, a couple beads, you can make this design. If you need any of those materials, go ahead and look in the description below the video to get links to shop with us online. Gather everything up and let's get started. So to get started with these simple wire earrings, we have a 6-inch piece of 18 gauge wire. That's going to be thick enough but also thin enough to go through the ear yet hold its shape. So I have the Potomax wire, and what I'm going to do is start with my slight turn. I'm going to start with a slight turn, and then we're going to use some 30 gauge, very thin wire with these tiny little mixed gemstones. And they are the multi-gemstone faceted Rondelles, and they are a 2mm bead. So to start that little loop in there, I'm going to take the end of my wire and my round nose pliers. If you need to see where that is in your round nose pliers and where the last pair was, you want to make sure to line them up so they match. I'm going to turn in. So naturally the wire wants to sit the way that it came off the spool. We're going to utilize that and use that to our advantage. I'm going to take that wire and I'm going to bend that wire loop to make it bending in. From there, I'm going to continue that freeform shape using my other one as an example here, holding the loop and just creating that natural organic bend. Continuing, and see how I'm lining it up with the other one. It's a great idea if you're doing this, honestly, to do your two forms at once. And then we'll go in and play around with the loop. So now my wire and my thread is not going to fall off the end. That's all I'm going to do for now. Now what I'm going to do is take this 30 gauge wire, again, very thin wire, and we're going to wrap from that little loop down towards the end. I'm going to take the 30 gauge wire, put it over top of the 18 gauge wire, and I'm going to spin it around once and twice. Now take that little tail, push it against the wire that's already there, and start twisting that as well. Again, this is a very thin wire because I don't want the wire to become part of the focus. If you want the wire to become the focus, you can use a thicker wire. Trim that down, grab a needle nose pliers, but honestly it's so thin you can just take your fingernail and bend that down. From there, I'm going to put on a bunch of my beads. I'm not worrying for this organic look exactly what beads go in which order, and my wire here is right about 16 to 18 inches that I'm using. I'm going to feed the beads onto the wire, multiple beads at a time. So I'm not turning and then adding a bead, turning then adding a bead. We're doing this as a nice quick design. So just putting the beads on. And if you want to, you can do them in a nice color order. You can also use for this seed beads, 11-0 seed beads or even 15-0s work really, really well for this design. You can even choose to use your end of your wire like a needle as you spin around and try to find the holes of these little gemstones. So I'm going to go ahead and put my gemstones on my wire, and then I'll show you how we're going to start our wrap. So I have approximately 22 of my little gemstones on here, knowing also that the gemstones are fine and can crack because they're so tiny. And I'm just going to take my round nose pliers at the very end of that 18 gauge and just turn it over into a little loop. What that's going to do is prevent those beads from falling off the end because I'm just going to work and push one up at a time. To create this looping effect and that bubbling effect of the beads, I'm going to take my wire, holding my gemstone, and wrap 1 and 2 wraps of the 30 gauge around the 18. Once I'm done with those 2 wraps, push one of my beads down. So you can see I kind of held it up there, pushed a bead down, hold the bead in a new position, 1 and 2 wraps. Pick a new place to hold the bead and see how it's spread out here. We're going to go in with that thin wire and push this and squash it all together. So I just drop my next bead down, holding it up, hold it at a different spot, wrap my wire around once and twice, pick a new spot, drop a bead or 2 down even a little closer. You can usually then, once you get the hang of it, drop that bead down in there, then hold the wire closer, 1, 2, drop another bead, 1, 2, drop another bead, and so forth. So you're just going to keep coiling dropping those beads down in place. And then as it starts to get longer and I start to use more beads, that's where I'm going to go in now and say, all right, where do I want it to begin on my loop? I want it to begin further down here. I need approximately that much distance. And look, ready? Magic, 1, 2, 3. That all goes together and pops around the piece of wire. I'm going to continue adding in the rest of my beads here, 16 more, as I wrap and finish up that little coiled section. Once you finish wrapping all your gemstones, you are likely to have a little bit of wire left. I'm going to do some additional wraps on the end here to mimic the one that I started, having about 6 or so wraps holding that down. Go in then with my wire cutter and cut that really thin wire down. Grab my needle nose pliers if you want to, and pinch that down into place with them. From there, what I'm going to do is create, again, that look of that archway. And you can see how they look like they're kind of popping all over. So from here, I'm going to go in, create that same curvature. And I can hold that in with my pliers. Get that same little turned over curve. Make sure my pattern or my piece kind of mimics one another and starts in the same place. I need to move it up, making sure as I'm looking at it and I create and start to do that turn, that it is also starting and getting to end in the same place to mimic the design. And then from here, getting ready to do my spiralized turn. So you can see just laying the piece one on top of the other. You can go in and kind of change out the design if you want to. I'm going to hold right where I need to take my pliers, grab my round nose pliers, and turn that wire down upon itself. Once I have that turned down upon itself, I'll go in here, do a little bit of turning to mimic the same design that I have started, and making sure that they match from side to side. Again, if you create your forms first, it's easier to make them a little bit more symmetrical, and I'm just going to go in here. The wire is nice and soft that I can go in, manipulate them, so once again they hang the same degree. Once you're done then, you can really see how this can vary with the different beads, give you that nice organic kind of shell look and that twist look, and have fun creating and making an endless supply of these. The end of the wire here, to create that clasp section, your ear is going to sit right in the top there, and that end, which you can take your fingers and just bend that nice little curve around, that is going to go through your ear. To make sure that this is not poking at anything, you can take a burro cup and round that out, or just a file, and do that as well. I also like to cut on a slight angle so that way it's not as sharp as it goes into my ear to finish up these nice organic earrings. Thanks so much for joining me in creating these fun, organic looking bubblegum earrings. They're a great take on using up some extras or just a few little odds and ends. Remember, if you need any Potomac's wire or any of the gemstones or want to try it out with seed beads, check out the links below the video in the description to shop with us online. I can't wait to see all the different versions and how this might spark your imagination to make you better Potomac beaders. As always, thanks for watching and enjoy the next video.